Welcome to this webinar, which aims to give you a refresher on the B1 learning content that you are expected to deliver to your students. Before commencing, note that it will be useful to have the student's book, workbook, and teacher's notes at hand in case you wish to refer to them. However, extracts and images will be shown, so you can also refer to the material after the webinar has concluded. So let's begin. The main resource for the student is, of course, the student's book. The student's book is supported by a workbook. The main resource for you as a teacher is the teacher's book. Let's now see how we can utilize these three components during a course. On pages 4 to 5, that is in Roman numerals, of the student's book, you should see something like this: the contents and learning outcomes for each unit. On page 4, you will have 5 columns. The first shows the unit numbers, their titles, and page numbers. Here we can see this for the first 3 units, but it will be similar for the other 9 units, which make up the 12-unit book. The second column will cover the learning outcomes for each unit. Columns 3, 4, and 5 cover the language contained in each unit, split into the categories of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation respectively. The grammar section will also include some extra practice exercises located towards the end of the book. Also at the end of the book is a section called Sounds Right for further pronunciation practice. Now it's up to you to decide whether the extra practice grammar exercises and Sounds Right pronunciation practice is to be done in class time or given as homework. This is the reason for their location at the end of the book. On the facing page, you will see some further sections for each unit. The first of these is called Interaction and highlights conversation strategies to be used in a particular unit. The next 4 columns cover the 4 skills of listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Although do note the latter is labelled as free talk, and the material to be used for this is located at the back of the book. The final column is focused on self-study and covers a vocabulary notebook. Therefore, as you can see, the contents and learning outcomes for each unit are quite comprehensive, and you can see at a glance what is covered in the whole course. At this stage, it's worth highlighting that a typical course is of 60 hours, and the 12 units are shown here. Now, depending on the learning speed of students, you may find that you are running short of time to cover the course in its entirety. If this is the case, then a suggestion would be to cover 10 units instead of the 12, with units 5 and 7 being the ones that are left out. Let's now look at one unit of the student's book in a little bit more detail. The title page of each unit presents the unit theme. Also the learning outcomes for every lesson, and a before you begin warm-up activity. Each unit has 4 lessons, A, B, C, and D, and each lesson has 2 pages. It is important to note that lessons should be taught in this order, A to D. However, there may be some variety in the position of pronunciation, listening, and speaking activities from unit to unit. The lessons present grammar, vocabulary, conversation strategies, and listening, reading, and writing practice. Lesson A covers grammar, pronunciation, and speaking. The grammar section will include a reference to the extra practice activities located at the back of the book. Lesson B will cover vocabulary, grammar, and speaking. The vocabulary section may include a prompt for the vocabulary notebook as well. Once again, the grammar section will reference an extra practice activity. Lesson C of each unit covers conversation strategies, listening and speaking, again over a 2-page spread. Finally, Lesson D involves all 4 skills of reading, listening, writing, and speaking. There will also be a reference to the free talk activities at the back of the book. Now, within each unit, after the 4 lessons, that's A to D, there follows a page with fun tasks where students write down new vocabulary and reinforce their vocabulary skills. At 4 points in the book, there is a checkpoint where students can test what they've learned so far. Each checkpoint is after 3 units. Note that this section can be done outside classroom time, but for some sections, students are expected to work in pairs, so encourage them to team up for certain parts. Otherwise, most of the checkpoint parts can be done individually. As we've already found out, there are sections housed towards the end of the book, which provide further practice. The sections are referenced in the units, so students will know when and which section they have to refer to. The first of these sections is called Free Talk, covering group activities. There is a section on pronunciation called Sounds Right, and an extra practice section with grammar activities. These extra practice exercises refer to the content of lessons A and B. Having considered the student's book, let's now move on to the workbook. The workbook is a natural extension of the student's book and contains the corresponding units. There are 2 pages of follow-up activities for each unit to reinforce these skills. Though the workbook provides extra reading and writing activities, it does not have listening activities at all, and so you will have to include such activities while teaching the students in class. The focus is on grammar, vocabulary, and conversation strategies. The workbook is to be done outside the class and can be done by a student on their own. Finally, we come to the main resource for you, which of course is the teacher's book. The teacher's book will have reference to some of the sections in both the student's book and workbook that we've already discussed. Therefore, you'll be clear on what the student's material contains, even if you don't have ready access to it. It also contains some useful sections that will help with your teaching preparation. For example, the content and learning outcomes, useful language from the student's book, and ideas for getting students to speak in large classes. The latter point will contain good reminders of what was covered in the preparatory training workshop. The free talk, sounds right, and extra practice sections from the student's book are also shown, as are the language summaries, audio scripts, and answer keys. Now, if you need a quick reminder and an overview of both the student's book and workbook, then you can refer to the course components page of the teacher's book. An analysis of the structure of the student's book units is then given. You can see the unit opening page, the focus of the 4 lessons, and the vocabulary notebook. The teacher's book will also highlight what's contained at the back of the student's book. In other words, the free talk, sounds right, and extra practice sections, as well as the periodic checkpoints after every 3 units. There then follows a more detailed run-through of a typical unit in the student's book, starting with the unit opener page, highlighting the unit aims and the before you begin parts. The focus of each lesson is then detailed. Lesson A presents the main grammar of the unit with some relevant new vocabulary. Lesson A may include a speaking naturally pronunciation task, a talk about it, group discussion, or a listening task. Key components of the lesson structure are then highlighted. Getting started, figured it out, grammar charts, common errors, grammar exercises, about you, and speaking and listening. The other lessons are detailed in a similar way. Lesson B teaches the main vocabulary of the unit and builds on the grammar of Lesson A. Lesson B may include a speaking naturally pronunciation task, a talk about it group discussion, or a listening task. In this respect, it's similar to Lesson A. The key components are building language, speaking naturally, building vocabulary, and a word sort. Lesson C teaches conversation strategies, followed by a listening and speaking activity that reinforces conversational language. The key components are conversation strategy, strategy plus, in conversation, and listening and strategies. The last lesson of each unit, Lesson D, focuses on reading and writing skills. There's a quick overview of the vocabulary notebook and also of the free talk section. Similarly, for the extra practice exercises and sounds right pronunciation sections. The syllabus map is replicated in the teacher's book. So you'll be aware of the content and learning outcomes for each unit. The most important part of the teacher's book is the section which walks you through each lesson. Let's have a look at some examples in order to see how all the components from the various sources that we've looked at so far can be integrated into a course. A unit will start off with some language notes, which are there for your reference. They will help you get up to speed on the aspects of grammar to be taught. The vocabulary introduced and also give inputs on corpus information. Remember that the language notes are there for your information and to help you prepare for your lessons. The detailed teacher's notes for classroom execution then start. The first point will cover the unit opener page and tell you how to lead into the topic. Those suggestions will be made as to how to combine elements of the supplementary material. In addition, there will be shaded boxes where you will find suggestions for the when to do any extra activities. Anything that needs to be pre-taught will also be mentioned in the Before You Begin section. The notes will then move on to describing in detail how each lesson is to be taught. At periodic intervals, references to when to use the extra practice exercises and workbook will be given. The same pattern will be followed for each lesson in each unit, but the focus may change. Lesson B will refer to extra vocabulary practice and the vocabulary notebook. Remember, throughout the lesson notes you will have suggestions as to where to include the supplementary material mentioned earlier. Things like extra practice, sounds right, and the workbook. So, as you can see, the lesson notes are shown in a step-by-step manner, with indications throughout of how to integrate the different components of the student's material to produce a comprehensive course. Each unit will end with suggestions about the vocabulary notebook. You need to decide what's best for your students, to do it for homework or to do it in the class. So there you have it, an overview on how to integrate the material to deliver a cohesive course. Do remember that the teacher notes give the information on how to deliver the 4 lessons of each unit. It's at your discretion as to how you do the supplementary material, whether it's to be given for homework or to be done in class. The choice is entirely yours, but you don't have to think about the points at which to do it, as these are indicated in the notes. To finish off, do remember that there's a range of online support available. Thank you for attending this webinar.